I exist. I exist on the internet. Success. Let me see if I show up on YouTube as well. Oh, it's saying sending data. Okay, it's saying streaming. So I'm going to assume I am currently streaming on YouTube. Let me make sure. Let me make sure there's no information that I will leak here, because I do want to show you today's experiment, one of them, which is I'm streaming to Restream here. So I'm streaming at the same time on YouTube as well as on X, on Twitter. And so that's going to be a fun little learning curve today. And there's a combined chat as well. So we're finding out how that is too. I just tried a chat message to YouTube, I believe. But chat is not available on Twitter. So that's also something to know. YouTube's not saying I'm streaming actually. Let me verify that. Because it is saying that on Restream. Oh, but okay. Okay, hold on. It created a second stream. All right, so we're good. That's something to fix next time. All right. Technical things to iron out on stream, live here. Okay. Then that means I will update the video description with the information I'd like to let you know, because there is something I'd like to talk about today, and there's a document on it, which now should be available on the video itself. I just updated it. This is pretty crazy right now, actually. Let me see if I can show you what I'm seeing. Just a little peek behind the curtain. Now I understand why streamers on Twitch are, they struggle so much, like keeping up with all of it. So hopefully you can see that now. There's OBS here, there's Restream, and then there's YouTube. So that's my that's my world right now. All right. Pull yourself together. And I don't think I leaked anything. We're good. All right, I hope you're doing well. And let me process this. So this is, as some background, I did want to try out what live feels on other platforms. And so today I'm multi-streaming to Twitter, to X, as well as YouTube. And full disclosure, I do want to pull myself together for that. Next week, I wish to try out TikTok Live, because I've heard that TikTok Live, they've really worked on their algorithm so that the live itself is shown to people on the platform, and the people that want to stick around can stick around. So when it comes to discoverability, it seems that TikTok is champion there. And so you're seeing the mad scientist test things out in real time here. Let's see. So I'll move right on to what I wanted to talk about today. By the way, check me out. That's one other experiment I'm running here. You can see me now. So the YouTube video itself is titled, "You're Faking Learning. Here's Why." So that's today's stream title. And I want to talk about how flinching, certainty, and overthinking keep you stuck. And if you've never heard of flinching before, flinching is from boxing. So I did take a boxing class one time, and I've noticed that if I punch you in the face, it's very natural for you, if you've never had fighting practice before, to immediately go like, oh, or like turn away, which of course immediately takes you out of the fight, right? And one of the things that fighters have to learn to do is remain completely calm and be aware of what's happening, be aware of the punch as it's coming in, instead of turning away. Certainty is a invisible, it's a strange reason that you might be faking learning. Actually, being too certain about things can keep one from learning. So flinching is like being unable to by being unable to see something coming in, you might avoid learning. By being too certain about things already before learning, you might avoid learning. And by overthinking things, you might avoid learning. So I'd like to talk about that today. So as an opener, I've started to realize recently that I thought I was learning, I thought I was improving, but the truth is I was still flinching. And real learning doesn't begin until you stop looking away. So in that analogy, imagine you are learning boxing defense, right? And every time you come in to fight, here's some things that I've done. I've closed my eyes, or I've turned away like this, or when someone's about to punch, I turned away like this. All of these, like if you think about the percentage of awareness you are presenting to the fighter in front of you, to use the boxing analogy, perhaps you're using about 20% of your attention towards the fighter. And what I've realized is that much attention means that efficiency of learning. 80% of the information coming at me, I'm not learning. So let's analogize that back over to whatever you're learning now. Okay, so that's the analogy. If I flinch every time a punch comes, then I'm not learning to fight. And in whatever you're learning, the punches are silence, you release something and there's no one there. Criticism, someone posts about your content and it just sounds like negativity. Being misunderstood, if I say something to you and you take it not the way that I intended, that's one. No reaction, which is about silence, so we can remove that. Confusion is also linked to being misunderstood. So, okay. And public failure. So I do something and it doesn't turn out the way I'd like it to have. And hold on, let's check on this and make sure this is the one I do want to show you. Yes, it is. So what I've begun to think about is so let's read this first. When you hit the first snag, don't flinch. Don't pull away. Look straight at it. Then look again. Then make your next move. This is where growth actually starts. And I'd like to give you some context. In some recent experiences, I work with a friend, and me and my friend, we communicate quite differently. And and specifically, what my friend does that I often ignored and I often deflected was my friend would complain. He would complain loudly about something. And when he complained about that thing, for example, the way that an event turned out, the way that someone treated him, the way that someone talked to him, my immediate reaction would be, oh, this conversation is not productive. Like, okay, whatever. That's that. What next? What would you like to do next? And then I realized that I've been doing this. I realized that I put on a certain thought. I put on a certain thought that I would like to experiment with more, which is perhaps everything that someone is saying, they're saying because they consider it important. And so the last time I met with my friend, instead of once he starts like going on what I thought was like a rant about how something turned out and how it was like so unfair and all those things, instead of me saying, okay, okay, they had a completely valid reason to do that, you can put that behind you and let's talk about what to do next, right? Instead of me like taking what he just said and moving it aside and saying, yeah, whatever, let's continue on with something productive, I decided that I was going to take exactly what he said. And the first experiment to play with is just let it come in. Just take it as is, listen to it, and accept it. By the way, this is a lesson I'm learning again, because many years ago I took a course. At Landmark, this personal development organization, and they taught about how they talk about acknowledgement. They talk about how anything someone says, accept it, receive it, and say, I hear you, I got it. And so this is an example of me applying that once again and realizing what that is. What I'm realizing is I am not the arbiter of what is important and what is true. And to the person talking, whatever they say is important and whatever they say is true. And so the first step to communication with a person is to accept exactly what they say as true. So I was trying that on. That's the context. And what I'm playing with is applying this to not just people, but to situations, but to outcomes. All of these things, when they happen, instead of moving on to the next thing as fast as I can, take it as is and look closely at what I can learn from it. And something else I want to add here is there's a connection to the last stream where I said, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. The connection here is that what I'm playing with is, instead of trying to go as fast as I can and stepping past all this information that's coming at me, I stop. I let it all come in. I reflect. And I give it that time to do that. Perhaps you can hear it in how I'm speaking right now too. So that's the context. The context is I've always been looking to go as fast as I can. And what I'm realizing is, if I go as fast as I can, then there are many lessons. There are many lessons that I am just skimming over. And I'd like to explore stopping doing that. Oops. So let's talk about this more. Most flinching doesn't look like fear. It looks smart, efficient, strong, but it's still avoidance. There are 4 subtle patterns that I've caught in myself where it feels like fake learning. I ignore it and I move on. You know, the most useful. Let's see. Okay, we'll talk directly about this first. I ignore it and I move on, which can look productive. Like I'm a very iterative person. I like to do something once, learn what I learned from it, and move on. However, I've noticed that sometimes, for the sake of going fast, I move on too fast. Blame or complain. This is something that I absolutely refuse to do as much as I can. However, I'd like to reflect on whether I'm still doing it sometimes. This is one way that someone can avoid learning, right? Indignation when misunderstood. Extension of blaming. I was clear. They're the ones that didn't get it. Asking a question, then disappearing into reflection. This is something that I do a lot. When I do something the one time and it doesn't go the way I'd like, then I can say, oh, I don't understand anymore. I need to take a week to reflect on it, and only when it makes sense will I do something once more. Yep. About the third one, I'm connecting this to something I've heard many times recently, or no, actually I've heard many times over a long period that I didn't understand, and I'd like to reflect and learn about it now, which is, in communication, they say in communication, it's not about what you said. It's not about how you intended to say it. It's about what they heard. And it's becoming much more clear to me recently that the way that what I say is often not what they heard. And I'm exploring, once again, like not flinching. I'm paying close attention. I'm exploring when someone is reacting a way that I don't expect, then I can ask myself the question, they're reacting in a way where they heard it differently than I intended. And once again, without looking away, without flinching, I can pay attention to that, and I can say, I think the person is hearing it this way. Let us reshape what I'm saying, let's reshape with some words, so that they hear it the way that I intend. So these are 4 different ways that I've noticed that that cause me to look away from something too early without actually learning what it's telling me. And some of these, the middle 2, are ones that I've noticed other people doing. And so I ask you to reflect and see whether that's something that you might be doing that's keeping you from learning something. For me particularly, reflecting deeply, what I tend to do when something doesn't turn out the way I'd like is I just ignore it and I move on. I want to do it again. When something I do doesn't turn out the way I'd like, I say, okay, next trial, do it one more time. And it felt calm, it felt detached, it felt efficient, but it was actually fear. I didn't want to look. And actually, part of the reason why is because one of the first problems I had when creating, when sharing myself, is I just wouldn't even do it at all in the first place. I would do what was said here. I would ask a question, and then I would disappear into reflection. And I would say, okay, I guess I'm not ready. And I would never do it again. So the first step of growth was me saying, okay, do it 100 times and then reflect. However, I'm now realizing that if I do that, like what got you here won't get you there. If I do that, then I'm also like stunting my learning. And so now I'm going to do the trial, and then I'm going to look closely, learn everything I can learn about it, learn from it, and then do the next trial. And if I do both, my sense is that I'm maximizing learning. So now when that voice comes up of like just skipping over what I just did, I'll do this instead. Whatever comes up, whatever feedback I get, I stare at it. I do not react. I do not deflect. I do not move on. I find the useful feedback. I note it. I let it change me. And then I move on to the next trial. And it's funny because this feels like it's not very productive. It's really not action. It isn't action. It is presence. But what I'm exploring is that from this presence comes true learning. Something else I've noticed people do is they seek to find certainty before doing something. And I actually do this too, where I seek to understand something before doing something. And I lied. I believed that it was because I wanted clarity, but often I was just chasing control. And certainty can make you feel safe, but it's comfort dressed up as insight. And what I mean by this is, I didn't actually need it to move forward, and actually it was impossible. It's impossible to get certainty in what you're doing because certainty is about like staticness, being static. But whatever you're doing, you're constantly moving, and so you must remain in contact. You must be in the activity, which is going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be constantly creating in the moment. but that is the only place that true learning happens. I mean, there's a Mike Tyson quote I love, which is, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, punched in the mouth. And what I'm coming to realize is reality is much more that. Reality is much more a movement, constant awareness, read and react kind of activity, instead of a clear plan on some static game board. It's always reading and reacting and constantly moving with. That's what life is more like. So YouTube is this place where I am doing this role like a boxer. It's my practice ring. And I've been releasing my videos, and some flop, and some are weird, some get silenced. And my old reaction to this was flinching by saying, "Oh, whatever, next video," right? Or like actually before that, my previous phase was I would say, "Okay, I don't understand this. Let's go into hiding for a while. Let's reflect." But now, like in this moment, on this live stream, I'm letting it land. I'm letting it enter my awareness. No explanation, no story, no defense, just see. And when I do that, the next move becomes obvious. I think if you compare this live stream to the previous live stream, something I noticed I was doing in the last live stream, or in whatever I say, is often I was trying to speak before I knew what I was going to say. And what that can create is, once again, this speaking that will never lead to clarity or awareness, because I'm not there as I'm talking. And so this stream, I'm practicing being there as I speak, letting my own words land, so the next words can also be clear. So you're watching in real time me applying my own learnings to myself, so that I'm not faking this. I'm not faking learning. So when someone stops flinching, when someone stops trying to, when someone stops flinching, flinching happens in just wanting to get to the next thing, complaining, blaming, running away to reflection. These are flinching. These are ways that you take yourself out of the game. When you stop flinching, when you stay in the game, and you get used to doing that, then you unlock obsession. You stop thinking about how you're doing. You stop managing how you look. You stop looping, and you start moving. You start actually being in the fight. And then, from that flow, focused place, obsession kicks in. And it's not noisy obsession. It's not stress, but it's quiet, clear focus. The stories fall away, and it becomes clear, becomes simple. I'm here to do the thing, let's go. I'm live streaming right now, let's go. So I'd like to open this stream to chat, to questions and answers. And here are some questions. What is your version of what I'm talking about here? What I do is to block myself from learning, like to keep myself in action, but also block myself from learning. I say, okay, that was good. Let's next one. Instead of stopping to reflect and really take in what I just did. Where do you catch yourself flinching? So some ways of flinching is you ignore, you move on, you blame or complain, you take it personally, or you go into reflection, like deep reflection, and you go into hiding. What are your versions of doing that? And the third question is, have you ever felt that shift when the noise drops, when all of that stuff stops, and only what exists here remains? You become aware. So that's a realization I've made recently, which is I don't have to be fearless. I just have to stay. Stay through the silence, stay through the discomfort, stay through the misunderstanding. And that's where learning begins. That's when obsession arrives, not as stress, but as alignment. And that's the path I'm walking, and you can be there too. So case in point, let me sit here and absorb what just happened. So that was an attempt at a script, and now I'd like to share more just from what is happening in my life, what I mean by this stream. One of the main ways that this topic is showing up is in my communication. A lot of times, in the pursuit of trying to say something quickly and trying to get to the main point that I want to get across, I have often tried to talk this way, tried to talk that way, and you may see in the old streams that I'm trying to get the point out too fast before the point is even there. And that's a form of flinching, I've realized. That's a form of attempting to get to the next thing without actually being there, without paying attention to what I'm doing. So that's number one. Number two is in conversation. I've accepted that I cannot control the conversation. And instead, what I can do is pay full attention to who I'm talking to and see what I can learn. I have no expectations about how a conversation can go, but I also have so much curiosity about what I can learn from this conversation and how I can what I can discover about how I can navigate conversations in the future. What's up? What's up, D-Rock? And I'd like to share some further context about how this stream came to be. I've been, if you follow my Twitter, if you follow my X, which I highly recommend, you will see a stream of consciousness. You will see what my thoughts and what my subconscious has been working through recently. So let's talk through some of those tweets. Here's one. True thriving begins when you release control. Control is the assumption that your body and mind are the center of reality. But how small would your world be if that were true? Reality is vast, and it carries you, but only when you let go. And when I wrote this tweet, I thought about the reality of what it's like, for example, to have a conversation with someone. A conversation is not just me. And if I treat it as just me and me attempting to make the outcome happen, then a conversation will forever be a struggle. But if I can release control and I can treat it more like a partner dance. Let's look up a partner dance. If I can release control in a conversation and treat it more like a partner dance, then I think it becomes much more understandable that no, I cannot control this conversation. And what I can do instead is watch the person I'm talking with closely and move with them. So, yeah, thriving begins when you release control. Control, and this extends out into the activities you're doing, this channel, you, the audience, marketing, sales. I believe the more empowering and almost paradoxically controlled perspective on life is to accept that you cannot control what it is you're working with. You can only control, to a limited degree, your own actions, your own thoughts, yourself. And you are now working with a system that is beyond your immediate control. And when I live that way, then in a way, I gain the highest amount of control that I actually can. Another one, if you aren't getting your ideal results, you aren't taking the ideal actions. Everything is feedback. And this is me opening myself up to the idea that everything that I see is not something to ignore. It's something to accept, something to receive. The number of views I'm getting on this video is not an accident. It is not an accident. It is honest feedback about my current actions. When you release and get crickets, be balanced. This is not a sign you should quit, but it is a sign that your product needs work, that you aren't presenting it well, that your own reputation needs work. All responses are feedback. Don't stop, but also listen closely. Don't flinch. Don't flinch. And the tweet that I pinned to the top of my profile, to act is to be wrong. Every move leaves something out. That's the price. Two directions at once is no direction at all. And I equate this to an idea that I've been reflecting on recently a lot, which is keep talking. Keep talking. So if, for example, I wish to share an idea with someone in a conversation, and I say one sentence, and they take that sentence negatively, well, the flinching way to continue the conversation is to end the conversation. Is to say, "Oh, never mind. I didn't mean it. Let's just not talk about it anymore. It's fine." Right? That's the flinching way. But the engaged way, the way that treats a conversation like I cannot control it, and I'd like to stay in the fight, is to keep talking and establish what I actually meant to say and draw lines around what I didn't want to say. And what you get to create then is you get to go from being wrong, because no matter what you do, you will be wrong. And you move into what I put into the reply. Each action is an errant paint stroke. Every stroke, everything you do is going to be just one paint stroke. But thousands of actions combined over time becomes correct. It becomes the painting. And so in a conversation, in a crucial conversation you're having, if you keep talking and you establish, for example, I love you, but, or I love you, and, right? So you're adding like that shade of love to what is now the feedback about something that you wish were true about this, like what you're doing. And reflecting on my life, there have been times when I have wished to communicate something that the other person would not want to hear. And when you do that, I've come to understand and believe you cannot do that in one sentence. You cannot do that in in a 5-minute conversation. You might not even be able to do it in one conversation. It requires essentially a tapestry of conversations, many paint strokes, drawing exactly what it is that you're saying, listening to what the other person is how the other person is receiving it, so that you can shape it such that now we are having communication. And what that requires is the ability to stop flinching, the ability to not flinch, the ability to stay in the fight. Don't do these things. And there's one I'd like to add, which is end the attempt abruptly. If I come up to you and I wish to talk to you, and you're in a bad mood, but this is important to say right now, then all I have to do is continue to stand here and then keep talking. And with each sentence I add, I can make sure whatever I'm attempting to do, I can make sure it happens. Not with confidence or fearlessness, but just with growing clarity. So that's what I wished to share today. Some practical applications I'm doing in my own life for this. I mean, I've been sharing them across the whole video. But some are, like, instead of dismissing a person as like looking to dismiss a person as quickly as possible, I look to ask as many probing questions as I can that so I can understand them deeply instead of moving on, looking away. That's one. So people. 2 is with every piece of content I create, as like including this live stream, I will watch this live stream over again and ask myself probing questions about, for example, what are 3 things that I can see that if I adjusted, it would make the stream much better. And I don't have to make myself wrong. I don't have to complain. I don't have to react emotionally. I just simply look at it and extract 3 things and do them. And the third place that I'm applying this is when I get feedback, no matter what the feedback is, complaints, demands, requests, the first thing I'm going to do is simply watch it come in, like the opponent's punches as a boxer, or some martial artist, they're kicking me, right? the first step that I'd like to take in my life is to watch it come in. That's the first step. That's the first thing I'm going to do. And then extending the analogy, I'm sure there are things that would be obvious to do afterwards. But the first step is to always see them come in without flinching, without deflecting. Take all of this feedback as useful information. Live reflection on this live stream. Today's live stream was largely for me because I wanted to crystallize the latest realizations I've been making, all the ways that I've been blocking myself by skipping past important information. So yeah, that was the main experiment of this live stream. The other experiment was I wanted to try a restream, which is a crazy thing to try. I highly recommend you try it just to see what it's like. So hey, I got something up on on X, on Twitter. Crazy. I found out that you need to apply to stream live to TikTok, so I will try that next time. I think I have high hopes for TikTok Live. I'm going to take a moment here to think about whether there's anything else I'd like to share with you. There's one more thing I'd like to share. Which is I am realizing that everything, in my mind, everything is the same thing. It all comes from openness, a willingness to keep looking, keep trying, and yes, like the theory I have right now is that a large reason why people do not advance in what they're doing is because they're blocking the lesson somehow. And I think it's absolutely true that life will keep teaching you the lesson until you learn it. And that's why I tend to just keep meeting the same person over and over again. Because life's trying to teach me, and I keep on deflecting and rejecting and walking past what they say. So today's stream was largely for me, and I trust that it was also clear and well delivered for you. I think that's everything I have to say. So, in a phrase, pay attention. Pay attention, pay attention. And stop flinching. Stop flinching. Okay. Cool, D-Rock, thank you. That's everything. a couple things of to point out and make you aware of. There is a link for my Twitter, for my X. Follow me on Twitter. If you have any direct questions or you'd like to have a conversation with me, there's Discord. Join me there. Subscribe to my YouTube if you liked the video. I'm having another stream at the same time next week. And I'd love to see you there. And that's everything for today. So thank you for joining me. And I hope you have an excellent week. Talk to you next time.